Now to that bizarre string of flying or floating objects that have been shot down over North America, as if life couldn't seem even more bizarre. In just hours, the Biden administration is holding a classified briefing for all U.S. senators, updating lawmakers with the latest information on those objects. Remember, there was the big spy balloon, the Chinese spy balloon. Then there was another object found over Canada and Michigan, Alaska. Right now, the U.S. is still working to recover debris from those unidentified objects that were shot down by U.S. fighter jets. Yes, this is real life, even though it sounds like a crazy, creepy movie or maybe a comic book. White House correspondent Allison Harris is joining us live right now. This is very, very real, but how much danger are we expected to hear about from these objects?
Well, Adrienne, all senators on Capitol Hill are going to learn more about the threat that these flying objects pose in an hour now, really just 15 minutes. This briefing is going to get underway, a classified briefing on these high altitude objects that we still don't know much about. The press secretary making this distinction, though, in the White House briefing room.
There is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns.
And I want to reassure Americans that these objects do not present a military threat to anyone on the ground. They do, however, present a risk to civil aviation and potentially an intelligence collection threat. And we'll get to the bottom of it.
Democrats, some of the president's own allies, are among those who are raising concerns about the lack of information being released to the public about these objects, even as they acknowledge that the information is scarce. They're waiting to collect the objects to get more information. There are calls this morning for President Biden to be as transparent as he possibly can be about what the U.S. knows and what it does not know. Some are worried that the lack of information is only fueling conspiracy theories. The White House says that the president does view these flying objects as a top priority. The Biden administration says because the three objects shot down by U.S. fighter jets over the weekend were taken down over rural areas, over Alaska, Canada, and Michigan, as you were saying, Adrienne, U.S. officials have not been able to recover the pieces of the objects and analyze the parts to learn more about them. Also saying that weather conditions play a part in not being able to recover them fully yet. The White House is now creating a team to study these objects in coordination with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, with the Pentagon, the FAA, the Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies. So they do seem to have a plan to try to start to learn more, but that's not enough for lawmakers who say that we should have more information already.
And obviously, for a lot of Americans listening to this, it sounds so strange. But there's data that shows that these kinds of objects are not rare in U.S. airspace. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, important context, right, Adrienne? A recent report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence said that since March 2021, there have been 247 reports of flying objects that require further analysis. So my colleague here at the White House, Blake Berman, he asked Admiral John Kirby why the president is taking action now in regard to these three objects over the weekend.
So can you say why the president just recently, within the last couple of weeks, started ordering some of these objects to be shot down, and why there weren't any orders throughout 2021 or throughout 2022?
It's very simple. It comes down to what sort of safety and security threats and risks we're talking about, and also it comes down to a lot to our ability to track, detect, and engage.
Kirby says there are no active tracks on NORAD, so no indication of more flying objects over U.S. airspace. Adrienne, China says the U.S. has sent flying objects over China, but Kirby is denying that.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.